back, baby.
Offense, you know what to do.
It's football time in Tennessee.
Get me Tennessee.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in. This is the latest episode of the 1796 Sports Pod. The whole gang's here tonight. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. So we're going to dive right in. Talk about Tennessee's Elite Eight loss at the hands of Zach Edey and what we all thought about that. I think, just starting off here, I told Ryan we were playing with house money at this point. I mean, when you do something you've only done one other time in school history, can't look at it as a disappointment. So would we have loved to go further? Absolutely. It sucks that it was so close, and the way it happened sucks. But it is what it is. So, Jim, I'm going to turn it right to you and kind of get your reaction from just the game first.
I mean, it was a good game. Other than we all know we're going to talk about it eventually, but the differential in fouls between both teams, how Zach Edey had one foul the whole entire 39 minutes he played. We could go into all that, but overall as a team, I think we played decently well. Other than, like I said, you take away the fouls, you even take away like 5 of our fouls, I feel like Tennessee could win this game. But and I'm not going to put the blame on this one guy, but I think a huge reason why we lost was the disappearance of Jonas Adu. That kid came in, and after his first little baby hook that airballed, I was like, that's it. He didn't show up all day. He went 0 for 4 from the field. He played 10 minutes. That's a problem. That shouldn't happen. And this is why we've been talking about his, future. And I think Adu is definitely, he's got to come back now. I just don't think he's NBA ready.
He wouldn't be sniffed by an NBA team right now.
Yeah, but other than that, Dalton Connect played his heart out, man. He put it all on the floor. I felt bad for him. I think Triple J played really well. I feel like he should have shot a lot more, but that's just me. But yeah, overall, I think the team did well, other than the fouls.
So Ryan, I'm going to let you go, but I just want to point something out first because you kind of changed my mind on this. So I was pissed watching the game. I was getting pissed just with the way that Edey's treated and just standing in the paint all game and dunking the ball or, getting it lobbed up to him. It's just infuriating to watch. But then you dive into it and you kind of reflect and you look at the box score and you realize that nobody on Tennessee showed up to play on offense except for Connect. Nobody was in double figures except for Connect, who had 37 points. It was a joke. I mean, the fact that everybody wanted, other than Triple J, Jim, you're right. Triple J contributed in multiple ways, like he has been. You could tell he wanted it. But Adu doing nothing, total nothing burger. I mean, Vescovi doing nothing. And, Vescovi was sick. I mean, I know that. But just a total dud from everybody other than Connect, and I'll throw Triple J in there. I mean, that's really disappointing. What'd you think?
Yeah, it's obviously disappointing, and I was talking with whoever I've talked to about the game. I've been saying the reason Tennessee will lose whenever they do lose is because, Dalton Connect will not have the help he needs, and that's exactly what happened. You kind of hinted at it, Bryce, about my thoughts on Edey and the refs. I just don't understand why people are so mad. I think on offense, when he was playing offense at least, Tennessee was fouling him. I mean, I think it's simple as that. I mean,
it's not just what really changed my mind about it is it's not just us. Like that's how he gets. That's how his games go every single game he plays. Like it's not like they were just screwing Tennessee and it's never happened before. I mean, he gets those calls every freaking game.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he's defending National Player of the Year. He leads the country in points. I mean, he's going to get calls even if he wasn't that tall and big. I mean, it is what it is. But I also don't agree with people saying he's only good because he's tall. I think that's stupid. Having watched him twice now against Tennessee, he's a great player. I'm bending the knee to him as a good player. I think that's fair to say at this point. I mean, if you want to say he's just tall,
He's still an asshole, and he looks like a model boy.
I agree with that. If you want to say he's just tall, tell me why there's 2 players in the SEC taller than him that you've never heard of. I mean, it's because they don't produce as well as he does. I mean, he's a good player, but it's like you said, when Connect does not have help, he's the only one shooting down the stretch, and all Purdue has to do is dump it into their 7'4", 300-pounder against a freshman because Adu was unplayable. You get what you got.
Well, I mean, I think we need to give Jim some credit too, because Jim, you've mentioned it like all season. Adu crumbles against elite big men. He just does. He's soft. He is his
extremely.
His nickname needs to be Charmin, because anytime he plays against an elite big man, he disappears, and you cannot have that. And I mean, we'll get into this, but I definitely think if I was looking for a portal edition, it would be a big man.
Oh, absolutely. And no hate to Adu. I mean, he played well throughout the season. He did. But he would disappear in the big moments. I mean, and that's a big deal. I mean, playing 10 minutes in the Elite 8, you're supposed to be the big man. You're supposed to be the main guy. And you could tell he was upset. But Estrella, he comes in, he's playing with grit, he's playing with heart. You could tell he wants to be there and wants to play. Adu was a no-show, and I love Adu. I really,
we all
I
love
don't.
Him. He's just
I can't say any. Yeah, it's frustrating in an Elite 8 that we could have won. The game was there. It's not like we were getting blown out. We were winning by 12 at one point.
I mean, if Adu even contributed like 10 and 8, we would have won the game.
Right, but I want to go back to your Zach Edey point real quick. My thing about Zach Edey, I'm not saying he's a bad basketball player because obviously he's playing D1 and he's in the Final Four. So he's a good basketball player. But being 7'4", 300 pounds and getting 22 free throw attempts a game is ridiculous. He has 400 free throw attempts this season, which is absurd. And he had a 40-point game. He hit 14 free throws. That's just my point. I mean, don't get me wrong. His little baby hook's nice. He's good in the paint. But other than that, he's a nobody.
I think I agree with you here, Jim, because it's like Ryan, we're not saying that he's not good, but when you have like 40 points and 18 rebounds or something, it was like a 24-14 game. Like, I don't know. It's just I feel like it's a very empty 40-point performance when you're at the free throw line the whole time and you don't leave the paint.
Well, I mean,
like DJ Burns doesn't play like that. Like DJ Burns has a nice touch on his jump shot, and he's huge. Like he doesn't need to rely on calls like that.
The reason he gets called for fouls is because he's unguardable. I mean, that is what it is. I mean, I really like. Besides, it's like Jim said a few minutes ago. Besides everything that happened with Edey and the referees, we were down by 1 with 4 minutes left to play, and we went cold at the worst possible time.
Yeah, I mean, it boils down to that. It boils down to Dalton Connect scored half our points, and nobody else even had double digits. And, I mean, like I said, I can't fully blame Vescovy because he was sick, but Vescovy contributed nothing. Adu contributed nothing. Like, it's hard to win like that when 2 of your most important players do nothing.
Yeah, and I really hate it for Adu because he was second team All SEC this year. He made first team All Defensive Team in the SEC. I mean,
well, he'll be back.
Exactly. I was just about to say there's obviously nobody who feels worse about it than Adu. I mean, you could tell it as he was leaving the court. And I hope it fuels his fire for next year because he's going to be the starting center. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Hey, yeah, absolutely.
Golden from FAU. I would give up my left nut.
He's not coming here though. He'll follow his coach unless you offer the kid a bag, which Rick Barnes won't.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's just frustrating.
I agree though, Bryce. I think he'd be a fantastic addition.
I do think you got to look for depth at least. I mean, like you said, Jim, Estrella has a good motor. He's a high energy, fun player. He's just not there yet. I mean, he's young. He could develop into that eventually, but
He needs to get some weight too. He's just too small. He doesn't even look big.
No,
he's not.
I mean,
We just need more toughness. We need more toughness down low, in my opinion.
well, if there's one thing Tennessee basketball program does well, it's get people bigger. I mean, if you look at the photo that comes up before every season of all them shirtless flexing, I mean, they put in work over there in the strength program. So hopefully he adds on those pounds. But I will agree with everybody, all of the throughout the Tennessee fan base, that Edey having one foul is complete bullshit. I mean, that's just asinine to think that could even be possible in that physical of a game when he only didn't play like 30 seconds. I think it was one possession. I mean, that's crazy. And even though they haven't called 3 seconds on anybody this year, I don't think I saw that called in one game of ours. He sits there for 10 seconds. I mean, that's the issue with him and the referees.
You know, it's a big deal too. They're talking about it on the news. That where did the 3 second violation go? Like, it's not a rule anymore. And and I'm not making excuses because, like I said, Edey played really well. He really did. But one foul, bro, and I get it. A ref's going to miss a call. But we have pictures of at least 4 to 5 fouls on Edey that are easily fouls on him. But even the one on Awaka, the last one he had, where he fell down on Awaka and it was a foul on Awaka. Like, it's just like, it was laughable at that point. I had to turn the game off at one. I think it was before we made that little run to come back a little bit. I turned it off. I couldn't. It was a foul every possession. And even Big Cat from Barstool, like, no one wants to watch a basketball game where it's a whistle every possession. No one.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this point, everybody that's not a Purdue fan is rooting against them because it's just not fun to watch. Like, they're not an explosive team. They dump it to their big man and he does the work or gets calls. I mean, I don't think anybody else in their team is impressive in the slightest, really. I mean, they have a couple good passers.
I like Braden Smith. I think he's actually really good.
He's pretty good, but it's just make Edey smaller, take him off the team, and they're just an average run of the mill.
They wouldn't be in the tournament. I'm sorry, I mean, they wouldn't.
It is what it is. I mean, overall, though, I think you guys would probably agree. The season has to still be viewed as a success.
Of course, it's the best season.
I think so too.
It's the best season in Tennessee basketball history. It's not even close.
I mean, it didn't end the way we wanted, but
it's frustrating. Like, so many, like perfect example, Alabama. Alabama makes it to the Final Four this year. Like, that's frustrating. And I know they played a cupcake schedule, but like, I mean, we just can't get to it once. It's just so frustrating. Like, we get so close. We've been close twice. And just
it's part of being a Tennessee fan, though. It's like that in every sport. It feels like we get to Omaha last year, we lose. Like, we get to before that, we lose. It's like a never-ending thing. I think Tony's going to be the first coach to bring us a national championship.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, at this point, so obviously. Did y'all have any other thoughts about the Purdue game specifically before we get into kind of off-season mode?
I don't think so. Not me, at least.
I think everything we've been saying about Adu is going to fuel his fire for next year. I think you can say the same about Ziegler, at least for the last game, because he was not effective from the floor.
Yeah, I mean, obviously against Purdue, but I don't think Ziegler has anything to hang his head about for this season, at least. But
speaking of him, I just want to say, if he could just in this offseason work on his 3-pointer, I think if he could become, because right now I say he's an average 3-point shooter. If he could become an above average 3-point shooter, where you have to be up on him. I think Ziegler will be the best. I mean, he's the best defensive point guard in the country. I think he'll be one of the best offensive if he could just progress in that.
That's a good segue, Jim, because where's the offense going to come from next year? So obviously,
Portal.
Connect's gone, Triple J's gone, Vescovy's gone, and I know like people might roll their eyes at Vescovy and Triple J because they didn't really contribute much on offense, but I mean Vescovy and both of them have been, critical offensive pieces. So obviously, like losing those three is that our whole offensive production, really. So what do you guys think? Do you think like De Leon or Cameron Carr are going to help shoulder that load, or do you think we're going to be relying on outside additions here?
So scoring wise, I don't think they will. I think those two will bring a lot of energy. I think now I'm going to stick on this subject right now before I forget my point. But yeah, I think they'll contribute a lot of energy, but I mean, not to the extent of Dalton Connect. I think at this point you have to go into the portal and go get someone that can be even half of what DK was, because there's plenty of talent in the portal right now, but I just don't see anyone on this team other than Ziegler and Adu that could give us some scary offensive prowess.
Well, Ryan off air, we talked about it, and Ryan floated the idea of a starting lineup of Ziegler, Meshack, Carr, Adu, and Awaka, but that's a good defensive lineup. I just don't know if that's enough offense.
Well, I really, I mean, you go back 2 years ago, it was scoring by committee. I mean, you're never going to replace Connect by just one player. There's going to be a lot more shots to go around. It's like in Moneyball when Brad Pitt says you don't replace Giambi, you have to do it by committee. I mean, that's what we're going to do. I mean, I don't think it's as big of a deal as some people think it'll be. I mean, basketball teams are going to score. Rick Barnes is a good coach. He'll figure it out. But as far as leading scorer next year, I think it'll probably be Ziegler. And then I'd go with Adu second and maybe even Meshack third. But like last year, this time, we didn't even know who Dalton Connect was. So the next Dalton Connect could be out there somewhere.
So hear me out, and don't take this the wrong way. I'm sure I don't want this to get spun, but just imagine a scenario where it might actually help not having Connect, just because we'll have a more balanced attack. They won't have one guy to rely on to get them out of jams. Everybody will have to shoulder the load. It's like what we talked about all year about how like Vescovy and Triple J probably didn't feel the pressure to score anymore because of Connect. Well, Connect's not here anymore, so hopefully that attitude will be gone and everybody will be like, oh, I have the ball with an open look, I'm going to take that shot. Does that make sense?
Yes,
I could see it happening. Yeah, it's just, it's so hard to picture. Right now, at least, it's so hard to picture it. But I mean, I could definitely see that.
I mean, Connect's amazing, and he's a generational player. But I'm just saying, it not having a fallback security option might make other guys, step up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, when you have a free flowing offense instead of just hand the ball to one guy and hope he shoots you to a win, which he did multiple times this year, it's the reason we had our best season ever. But like I said, Rick Barnes is a good coach. He's going to get a few transfers. And we talk about scoring just now for the last 2-3 minutes. We didn't even mention Jordan Gainey. Imagine if he like finds his shot next year, because he only shot 20-something% from three this year. He'll have a whole offseason of shooting. And he was a top scorer at South Carolina Upstate. So that's another guy.
And just like Bryce, what you just talked about, he could be that guy that, even if he could get 10 to 15 a game, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if he like embraces that 6-man role and he can get you 8 to 10 points off the bench every game, and we gave him a lot of shit at the beginning of the season, but I thought he really came along on defense towards the end. He still got blown by a little bit, but he wasn't a total liability on defense either.
It's Rick Barnes, baby.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you guys this. Obviously, none of us know, but how much longer do you think Rick Barnes stays at the helm?
I mean, didn't he renew his contract till 2028?
Is that legit? I saw that. I don't know.
I don't know if it's. I saw it too, and I was. But let's see.
I mean, nobody thinks he should step away, right?
No, hell no.
Yeah, there's a page right here that says his contract got extended to 2028.
But Jim, you think you still want him to be in charge, right?
Rick Barnes is a great coach. He really is. I mean, does he have his downfalls? Yes, but what coach doesn't? Look at John Calipari. I mean, you're gonna go through these slumps. I think he just needs the right pieces. I mean, yes, we had Dalton Connect, but I still think we were missing one piece to, get over the hump, because you have a guy like Adu that doesn't show up the one game, and look what happens.
I've just seen a lot of stuff, mostly from Vol Facebook people, about, it's time for him to step away. He can't get it done in March. I don't buy into that. I just wanted to know what y'all thought.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. That's what I think. He's only 69 years old. It's not like he's on oxygen.
Tony La Russa.
Yeah.
All right, Jim, before we started recording, you mentioned some rumors you wanted to talk about. You want to get into that?
Yeah, it's just some people that I hear might be hitting the portal, and I just didn't believe it.
So, are you talking about Bronny James?
No, well, no. I just saw that before we hopped in here, but I've seen people talking about how Meshack might hit the portal.
Yeah, because of what his mom tweeted.
So what she tweeted, I didn't see it.
So his mom tweeted today. She follows us. Very nice lady. She said my baby was cute, but she tweeted out today a thing about how the NCAA needs to change the portal window to right after the tournament ends. Like they need to, because she was talking about how like kids' lives are in the balance and they have to wait on the NCAA to get their shit together. She basically implied that she was pissed about the transfer rules, which why would she care about that,
So what were the comments like in there?
A ton of people. There were several people like agreeing with her, but then there were obviously several people who were like, "Oh, what does this mean? Like, hopefully Jemiah's not leaving," stuff like that.
Did she say anything?
She hadn't said anything in response to it. Hold on. Apparently, she is a life coach to a bunch of different athletes. Like that's like her job is like mentoring college athletes. Somebody pointed that out in the comments. So hopefully she's talking about somebody else that she like represents that we know nothing about and not her son. Because
dude, I just don't see it being him, man. I just don't. Just because the kid loves Tennessee, he loves Rick Barnes. I mean, he's gonna be a starter next year. So, I mean, I just don't see him leaving.
I mean, it would be like casuals. If Meshack does leave, casuals will probably say like, "Who cares?" But
it's a big piece.
You cannot quantify Meshack's like influence on the game with a box score. Like Meshack does so many things that don't show up in the stat sheet. He's the best on-ball defender in the SEC, one of the best in the country. It would be like losing Tony Allen. Like he's integral to the team's success.
And he could score if he would just like you said, he just doesn't. I feel like he didn't have the motivation to shoot more.
Yeah,
he could score.
The Ole Miss game, right? It was Ole Miss Mississippi State where he hit 2 clutch threes and one at the buzzer right before the half and totally turned the tide of the game.
No, that was Alabama.
Yeah, like he can shoot. He just didn't have, like I said earlier, they weren't relying on him to. Ryan, I know you'd be pissed if he left.
Of course I would. I mean, it's like you said, he has the ability to be a really good offensive player. He was the starting point guard last year when Zakai Ziegler went down. I mean, he's a crucial piece to the team, and it would be a shame if he left. But looking at more of Miss Mashek's tweets, it really doesn't seem like he's leaving. If people would just take the time to scroll down like 3 inches on their computer screen, so I really don't buy into that.
See what are you talking about the thing from Vescovy?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it seems like they love the community. I mean, she takes time and likes a bunch of Tennessee related things, and you know, but I mean, at the end of the day, players are going to do what's best for them. If he thinks he can get a starting role closer to home or something, then that might trump all. But hopefully, that's not the case.
I really doubt it. But the guy that I think is a transfer risk, like it's almost a guarantee at this point, is DJ Jefferson. I mean, he's been in the doghouse for months now.
We've kind of accepted that, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, when he couldn't even – I think he played in one game. He played against Tennessee Tech for like 3 minutes, and that's the only action he saw, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks. He's uber talented, but obviously he did something. We don't know the full story there.
No. And then Freddie DeLeon might be another transfer guy, but that one's not as set in stone as DJ Jefferson probably is.
I mean, what about Awaka or Adu? Are y'all worried about that at all?
I think Adu, unless Tennessee went and got a big man, that would be the only reason, because no one, I think he's the starting 5 right now. I mean, you would have to get a big man that would threaten his starting position.
I honestly think it would be harder. I think it would be harder to replace Awaka than Adu.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just because of his toughness. You can find a 5 that can stretch the floor and hit shots. I don't think that would be that hard to find in the portal, but I think it's a lot harder to find a rim protector, tough guy like Awaka.
Yeah.
All right. Well, y'all have anything else about Purdue or the seniors before we move on to the next trending topic?
Nope. Shout out to Santi, Triple J, DK, and Colin. I mean,
yeah. I mean, we
wish you guys the best.
Yeah, I mean, Santiago Vescovi's Tennessee's steals leader, and he is second as far as single season 3-pointers made behind Chris Lofton. Did y'all know that Vescovi has hit more threes in a season before than Connect just did? So
that doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think everybody will look back at that trio of players. Everybody will look back at them with the same regard that we look at Grant and Admiral, if not more. So
yeah,
totally they're all 3 are going to be remembered fondly in Knoxville, and hopefully they embrace it and stay around in some capacity.
Yes.
Connect's obviously going to be a first-round pick in the NBA draft. I hope he goes to the Thunder.
Oh, that'd be huge.
But Vescovy and Triple J might be playing in Europe or something. But either way, I mean, nothing but the best for those guys. Nothing negative to say about that. So we'll move on. Well, I guess you could call it long awaited. I mean, we all 3 kind of thought it should happen a couple months ago, but Kellie Harper was relieved of her duties as Lady Vols head ball coach. So, not really a surprise to us. Some people acted surprised about it.
I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, like, surprisingly, there's a lot of Harper defenders I saw.
A lot of female defenders, too.
Yeah, go figure. But, it happened. At the end of the day, it wasn't up to the Lady Vol standard. Call it fair or not, I think of the 3 of us, I've probably been the most lenient in saying, like, hey, if you're expecting her to deliver Pat Summitt results, you're going to be disappointed. So that's not lost on me. Like, I know the expectations were hard, but at the end of the day, I mean, you got to get it done. You got to do something. And especially this team being so close and having the talent, like Rakia is a boss, Jules a boss, like being so close and not getting over that hump is what did her in. So I'll let y'all go.
Jim, go ahead.
I've said it since I don't even know when. it was time to let Kellie go. Kellie, I'm not saying Kellie's a bad person or anything like that. I just think she wasn't the coach for this program. I know a lot of people had some hate on my little post about Dawn Staley, but I mean, why not? I feel like money talks in this world nowadays. And it's not like Lady Vols would be a downgrade to her. I think if you offered her enough money, she would come here. But I agree with some people as well on, does the Lady Vol program have the type of money to just give to a coach like that? But also, I think Candace Parker or, someone like that. I know people say, let's stay out of the Pat Summit era people, but I think Candace Parker would be a good option. Yeah, I just think Kellie was a long time coming, especially after the South Carolina game in the SEC tournament. Oh my God, she should have been fired before the presser of that game, but that's just me. Someone else go.
So Ryan, before you go, I just want to jump in real quick. I think we all agree that she had probably peaked, right? And that's ultimately the reason she's gone.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, you just look at her time here. I mean, people point to she won, 2/3 of her games. I mean, well, that's not good enough. I say it every time we talk about Tennessee Lady Vols basketball. The Hall of Fame of women's basketball is in downtown Knoxville. Like, we're not supposed to be just winning 66% of our games. I mean, that's not going to cut it, and that's why it happened. And I also, Jim, would have fired her after South Carolina game, but Danny White knows what he's doing because their buyout dropped $1 million whenever on April 1st when he fired her. So shout out Danny for saving us $1 million. But I just, it's obvious that it needs to happen. Whenever you don't get high school recruits, you're losing Rakia Jackson, and nothing's really happening substantial in the recruiting world. And to the people who say, like, I've seen it, I haven't seen it from a lot of people, but the people who say, well, why should we even care about Lady Vols basketball? I mean, it doesn't make money, and it really doesn't, you don't feel as much just as a casual fan unless you went to the school whenever they are successful. Well, to that I say, it can make money. You look at the game that happened last night, it got more viewers than the Stanley Cup Finals has ever gotten. It got more viewers than several of the last 5 years NBA Finals. It got more viewers than the World Series too, yeah. So money can be made when you have stars and a good program. So, and Tennessee, when the athletic departments were split between men's and women's, Tennessee's women's athletic department was one of the few who actually made money. So this can happen. I mean, Tennessee is the blueprint for for women's college basketball, and I totally agree with Jim that we should make Dawn Staley tell us no with a good offer, and then start our search from there.
Well, I mean, that's just a stupid, like, boomer redneck argument. Like, and there are going to be some, like, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. Like, there's going to be some sexism, like people who just don't care about women's athletics. But at Tennessee, I mean, Tennessee is not one of those women's athletic programs that just nobody gives a shit about. Like, the Lady Vols deserve our support. It's a storied, classic, program that has a history of success, and it has a history of profitability, like you said. It just has to have the right people in charge. I mean, there's no reason that Tennessee Lady Vols shouldn't have stars like Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese and Haley Van Lith, and like they could be like what South Carolina is. They could be like what UConn was for 20 years, and they were at one point, and that's why everybody's so frustrated about it. It's not like we wouldn't. I mean, let's just be honest. If this was a Missouri themed podcast, we probably wouldn't spend 2 seconds talking about the women's basketball team. But this is a classic program with a tradition of excellence that deserves better, and they do deserve our support, and it can be special, and that's why this move had to happen.
Absolutely.
So I did put a poll out, and Jim asked me why I didn't put Dawn Staley on there. I just feel like it's kind of pipe dreamy, because she has it made. I mean, perpetual, like they never fucking lose. Like I doubt she wants to rock the boat. But I listed Molly Miller, Kara Lawson. So Molly Miller's Grand Canyon's head coach. It's been memed into oblivion. Everybody knows who that is. And then, but she's a great coach. I mean, she really is. Regardless of what some people think, it's not just about looks. And then you have Kara Lawson, who's a VFL and has had some decent success at Duke. And then Louisville's head coach, who, they're perpetually a top program. So those are the three options I gave. And let me look at the results. Hold on.
Yeah, because I would love to get into Molly Miller talk about it's all over Twitter at this point.
I mean, it's like Bryce said, it's not just because she's good looking. It's because she wins games. And to people who say, oh, she's never made the tournament, she's at fucking Grand Canyon. Like, if she went to Tennessee, she would probably make the tournament. That's a stupid argument.
And she would bring talent.
The results were pretty evenly mixed. I was surprised because most of the time when I do a poll, it's pretty strongly on one side or the other. Molly Miller won with a little over 30%, but the second largest vote share was the other option, which I'm assuming is, take your pick, Dawn Staley, Candace Parker, whatever. And then third was Kara Lawson, and fourth was Jeff Waltz from Louisville. So everybody kind of most of the time when these things happen, everybody kind of zeroes in on one or two people, and it seems like that's not really the case here. The Vols fandom is split many different factions. You have most of the guys want Molly Miller, and like you said, I'm sure there are some people who just want her because she's attractive, but I mean, she wins all of her games. I mean, like you said, Ryan, it's harder to have tournament success when you're playing in the WAC.
Yeah. I mean, I think she's a great option, but I do think the odds-on favorite right now would probably have to be Kara Lawson.
Which, people, Duke hasn't been a powerhouse under her, but they're a tournament team. They've outperformed expectations. Obviously, she's a VFL, what do you guys think about that? Like, Jim, do you want to get away from the Summit Tree altogether? Like, nobody that played for her, nobody that coached under her?
I don't think it's a big deal. Like, if it is what it is. If we get Lawson, it is what it is. If, like I said, hypothetically, a Candace Park, it is what it is. But I just want the best coach possible. And if that happens to be a player that used to play under Pat Summit, so be it. But I just want the best coach there is because, like you said before, Bryce, I mean, I want to talk about the Lady Vols. But, there's other teams that normally you just don't ever talk about your lady programs because they don't do nothing. So I just think...
Yeah, I mean, it's not because they're women. It's because they haven't been interesting.
Right. I don't say Molly Miller because, she's pretty. Yeah, that's a bonus, but that's like Tony V. Tony V's pretty, but he could coach. And my thing is I think Molly Miller's going to come here and can make an instant impact because look at the players at Grand Canyon. They love playing for her. And that's why they do so well. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about the Summit Tree either. Ryan, what's your opinion on that?
I was at Tennessee when Kellie Harper was hired, and Philip Fulmer made the most obvious decision there was. Let's go get the point guard from the team who three-peated. I mean, who happens to be a coach. I mean, he just probably spent 10 minutes on it. I don't think Danny White's going to do that, and he has to look. I guarantee you he's not going to just exclude anybody who didn't play at Tennessee or has coached at Tennessee previously. So, but if it came down to it, and that's the best he can get, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I would rather go outside the tree. That's just my opinion.
And I think the one advantage to getting somebody on the Summit Tree is they will know the expectation coming in. there will be no, because that is the one downside I have to Molly Miller is the expectations at Grand Canyon are nothing near what they are at Tennessee. That would be a massive leap up, media exposure, pressure. I mean, that would be something she's never even come close to experiencing. Doesn't mean she couldn't do it, but Carol Lawson would kind of know what comes with the role.
Well, I think anybody who interviews for a Tennessee job has to know the expectations. I mean, it's not like this is a secret. So
I'm sure Danny White will make it clear.
I mean, I think you'd have to be pretty naive to not know the history of Tennessee if you're a women's college basketball coach. So, I mean, I do agree with you, though. It'd be a lot more clear to get across if they were from the Pat Summitt tree. So,
I mean, winning 19, 20 games and losing in the first or second round, Vol fans are going to come for your head.
Yeah, but I really think to really get it back to where it was, you're going to have to tear it completely down. I mean, you got to get out the rot like Josh Heupel has done with the football program, and you have to just start over. Sometimes you have to cut off your hand to save your arm. So if it takes a while, I mean, I think you should give whoever we hire at least 4 years, at least a full recruiting cycle.
Well, patience isn't, our strongest suit, but I think turnarounds can happen, especially in women's basketball, where it feels like you get one solid recruiting class and you get a pretty good hold on things. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll stay up to date. We might have to do an emergency pod if something huge happens. Obviously,
I don't see it happening anytime soon, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Danny's going to take his time on it. If he is interested in Dawn Staley, she's obviously still in, coaching right now. So that probably wouldn't be announced for a while. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll keep everybody updated on it. We just want it to be better. We just want it to be fun to cover them. We want to be a blue blood again.
Yep.
All right. So any other thoughts on that?
No. I think we hit all the nails on the head.
Jim, what's been going on with the baseballs?
I think the baseballs are doing pretty well. I just won a series against Georgia, which Georgia is definitely an underrated baseball team. They could definitely smoke the ball like Tennessee. I think those are the top two offenses in the SEC going head-to-head, which, I mean, they ruled us on Friday, which, was kind of a shocker. But, Tennessee finally, stepped up and won the last two. But I think this baseball team, I mean, we got the lineup for sure. We definitely have the lineup. I think we definitely need the pitching to take a step up if we're going to do anything in the postseason, in my opinion. But we definitely have the talent. The team's been playing well. It seems to have a good chemistry. It's just we're missing some pitching depth. We definitely don't have what we had last year. So,
yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with, I mean, the guy who was supposed to be your ace on the weekend, his first 3 starts in SEC play have not gone well in Drew Beam. But I think he is the type of player who can turn it around quickly. So I'm not too worried about the pitching. I mean, you look at Sunday's game and even the last half of Saturday's game, Kirby Cannell and Xander Sechrist played awesome. I mean, Sechrist went 6 scoreless innings on Sunday. Kirby had his longest outing ever and pitched 5 innings after Drew Beam had to leave the game. I mean, I think the pitching's going to come around. I mean, you're still dealing with a few injuries on the pitching side, so I think this is a good week for no midweek game to happen. So we should have plenty of arms ready to go for the series in Auburn. So,
yeah, I mean, pitching is ultimately what wins you championships. Teams that have pitching depth, typically go the furthest. So that does worry me, but the offense doesn't worry me at all. I think any given day you can have 2 or 3 guys explode. I think that'll only get better as the season progresses. And like you said with Drew Beam, Ryan, like we've seen him perform like an ace before, so I'm not really too worried about it. Yeah. It would be nice to have another reliable starting pitcher, but it is what it is. Like Jim said in the previous episode, if this was the MLB, we would be trading some bats for some arms.
Yeah. And speaking about bats, Cannon Peoples has not come on yet, so this offense could get even better whenever he starts hitting. You talk about Dalton Bargo over the weekend was awesome. I mean, he had his best series ever. And this may be a hot take. I don't know if it is or not, but I really think it's true. I think Dylan Dreiling is the most complete hitter on the team.
I was going to say, I love his swing. His swing is like, it don't even look like a home run swing, but that dude's got pop. He could play the field really well. All around, I think he's one of the best players on the team.
Yeah, I mean, he just gets the bat on the ball, and if he hits that barrel, it's not staying in the ballpark. I don't care if there's like green monster level fences throughout the whole outfield. It's getting out of there. I mean, he kills the ball whenever he makes good contact, and I mean, it's like I just said, he just gets the bat on the ball. I really think he's probably the best prospect on the team.
He's one of them for sure. He's up there. Do you guys still have you changed your opinions at all? Do you still think this is a team that can make a deep run in Omaha?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying the pitching's like not talented. I mean, AJ Causey stepped up. He obviously had a rough game against Georgia. I think the umpire got under his skin, and he didn't stay composed. Where they started, he got into a bad situation, but he stepped up. I think Drew's going to take a turning point. I think the thing is he's a contact pitcher. He's meant for people to hit the ball. I think he needs, just one good game under his belt and he'll be his normal self. I mean, you could potentially move him to Sunday and maybe move AJ Russell to Saturday. And I don't think Tony will do that though, because he's already said that he was a Saturday guy. But I think if AJ Russell gets healthy, I think this team could go to Omaha and win it. It's just going to be, you got to have all your dominoes in order, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, even if the pitching stays like it is, especially if it's early in the game, even if we're down 4 or 5 runs, like we were on Saturday against Georgia. I think we were down 7-3 after the third inning when Georgia had their big inning. And people were on Twitter saying like, "Oh, this game's over. We can't do small ball. We're never going to come back." Well, we came back and ended up winning by 6 runs. I mean, I think this offense is fully capable of carrying this team, but it's like Jim said. Ideally, to make a deep run, the pitching needs to be there too.
We don't have the pitching staff that Arkansas has, like leading in every pitching category, but our offense can, even with an average pitching staff, we're still going to win most of the time. So
yeah, and you got to also remember, I mean, you got to see what teams you end up playing in, like the regionals and stuff, because it depends on the draw you get. Because I mean, some of them, like even last year, I mean, you had some brutal draws for some teams.
Yep.
But no, I think this team's really good. And like I said before, earlier in the podcast, I think Tony V is going to bring Tennessee a national championship before any other coach. Not saying Josh Heupel can't do it. It's just football is just a lot harder to get to that point. especially like where Georgia is, where Alabama's got the talent. We'll see what Kalen DeBoer could do. But, I mean, we get into all that later on in the offseason. But I just think, Tony V's just got all the talent he needs. He's definitely got the lineup this year. But I feel like when we have the lineup, we don't have the pitching. And when we have the pitching, we don't have the lineup. So it's just he needs all those dominoes to fall in order.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we made the World Series last year with not great offense, and then the pitching was there. I mean, and you talk about this year with the pitching problems so far. I mean, we lost 5 pitchers to the draft,
Which is excellent.
It's bound to take a step back, but it's like I said, I think the pitching is going to come around soon.
We'll see.
Yeah,
Tony V's teams have, at least recently, gotten hotter as the season goes on. So,
yep.
All right, boys. Anything else y'all want to touch on before we go? We touched on Purdue, the seniors leaving, Lady Vols basketball, and a little bit of baseball update. Anything else y'all want to hit on?
No, I'm just super lonely this week because there's no weekday game for baseball. So
sad.
But we're getting to that point where we're almost to no sports at all. So
We'll be all right. Tony V is going to take us on a good ride.
So Indiana State's about to move the NIT championship, so they should have been in over Virginia, just saying.
They should have been in over a lot of teams.
But
they took Kareem Abdul-Jabbar from us. So sad. But anyways, last thing I'll say is go Vols.
Go Vols, baby.
Go Vols.